passe l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone, welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. The first round of matches is complete, and the one thing I don't think any of us expected to be talking about at the start of this podcast was the Netherlands. They've defeated the hosts in a game which Brian Campion described as the most Hungarian thing to happen in handball. Brian, how are you?
I'm good. I am a little bit disappointed that we all fell for it again, because we've talked for years on this podcast about Hungarian handball, and they're unfortunate. And I think everyone likes to root for them as well. I think we like to root for them, and I think that's what we fell into it again. I think the occasion got to them again. And it was a big occasion as well, because not only were they hosting it for the first time on the men's side, they also had all these new arenas and the pressure that came with that. And the build-up has been so long that it just seemed to get to them. And the team, we should have thought about it beforehand as well. The Netherlands coming into it, really nothing to lose, complete underdog as well. And yeah, what a story really. But you really gotta feel sorry for Hungary, because they seem to wilt in certain situations.
It's incredible because it is of their own doing, because Hungary seem to be the country that actually faces the most pressure of all. You know, their fan passion to quality of handball ratio is the lowest across all of the world. They really, the fans expect so much more than what Hungary seem to be able to give. And I think that's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they're built up to probably a higher standard than they're ready for. And in this case, you actually saw that they wilted under pressure completely. It really felt like Matelekai was the only person who could play handball for large periods of that game, because he really took the game by the scruff and he was just looking around for someone to do something. And at the very end of the game, after the game, it was Martin Shkreli doing the interview, and he said the pressure got to us. He said that we weren't ready for it. The occasion overwhelmed us, which I think speaks volumes to maybe their preparation into the game. I think they did speak about the pressure that they had going into this game and built it up themselves. And it just kind of spiraled into that game. And even though they had multiple opportunities to actually bring it back, they just didn't. They kept wilting.
Well, it's early days. We're not going to write them off just yet, because they're probably going to go on to win a bronze medal here, and we'll all sound like idiots at the end of the championship. They do have a chance to turn things around with Portugal and Iceland still in the group. And we are, though, going to celebrate the Netherlands today and their victory. We're going to speak to Stijn Steenhuis later on from Handbal Inside. And for those of you who are listening to us for the first time since our preview podcast, very welcome to the show. We are doing this one pre-recorded, so nothing could possibly go wrong, or if it does, you won't be able to hear it. And I think we're all a bit relieved for that, as you said before we went live there, Brian. Yeah,
that was it was a lot of fun, but I think I aged maybe about 8 years in the process. I've done some live things before, but never for 3 hours. So it was quite the marathon. And afterwards I was walking around my flat with like jelly legs for about an hour after. It really took it out of me. I don't know how you guys felt.
Yeah, but thankfully we have some amazing editing skills in this podcast to take.
Well, now, Alex, you say we now. You have to be very careful. Let's just don't try and get like a lot of praise for that editing. You mean Chris O'Reilly? Yeah. Okay. Let's be fair. Chris did a very good job at editing those podcasts, especially with some of the technical difficulties we had. And it's layering all those different voices is not an easy thing. So good job, Chris.
Thank you very much. And the good news is that I think on the 19th we're going to do it all again. as we build up to the main round, and I don't think it's going to be 3 hours on that occasion. And after the experience we had there, I don't think it can get any worse. So it's all uphill from here. Anyway, thank you for sticking with us. If you did watch for the first time on Monday or listen to the podcast, we have a lot of people joining now because we're on the eurohandball.com website. And we also will hear from a number of players on the Polish and Austria teams, Sebastian Frimmel, Nikola Bilyk and Kamil Syprzak. But first, as I said at the top of the show, we're celebrating the Dutch here. So let's go into the chat that Alex and I had earlier this evening with Stijn Steenhuis. We got Stijn Steenhuis with us, who's going to talk about the big story of the opening day, of all the teams, of all the things we talked about before the championship. I don't think any of us expected to be talking about the Netherlands getting a victory on day one against the hosts. But before we do that, none of you can see this because this is a podcast, but I'm surrounded by darkness with both of the other guys on the line here. Alex, why the hell are you in a car in the middle of the night?
Well, cars have very good acoustics, so it is really good for a podcast. And otherwise, I've been in a summer house, a friend's summer house, watching as much handball as I can. And the friends have arrived with their parents, so I've been kicked out to do the podcast in a car outside.
Okay, what a way to start the championship. And Stijn, what about you? You're in the darkness.
Yeah, just seen Portugal, Iceland, and tomorrow I'm going to help a friend with building a house. So the lights are already off, and after this podcast, I'm going to bed on Friday night.
Oh wow, you're so adult, Stijn. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for joining us. And for those of you who don't know, Stijn is from Handbal Inside in the Netherlands, undoubtedly the Netherlands' biggest handball website, and also the host of what used to be called Spielmacher, but now is Radio HE. What happened there?
Well, Bobby Schagen, the right wing of the Netherlands, is also doing Spielmacher, but he's now at the European Championships, and I want to make podcasts. So I said, we're going to do a different thing without you, and when you're back after the Euros, beating Hungary, it's Spielmacher again.
Okay, that's very thoughtful of you.
Well, I'm trying to be.
All right, let's go into what was the huge upset from the first day. And while it was happening, I was actually commentating on what was supposed to be the big match of the day, France against Croatia, which was pretty damn good. But in terms of a result, nothing compares to this one. I was reading your website today and saw the headline, Netherlands, the Korea of Europe. And I want to ask you more about that later. But first of all, look, this qualification for the Euro showed that the Netherlands had a lot of potential coming into this championship. A really tough group, though. But like within the Dutch squad, and you know the team fairly well, as you were saying, Bobby's hosting the podcast with you. What were they actually expecting coming into this?
Well, not this. I was on the press meeting on Monday. That was back in the Netherlands, and all the players were saying that it is possible to beat Hungary, and we, all the journalists, were thinking, well, that's a big thing, and but they grow like that they are thinking that it's possible to beat Hungary. All the players are saying we can beat Hungary, we can beat Hungary, and so that's in their minds. It worked. Kai Smits said on the Dutch television, 20,000 Hungarian fans were not believing in the miracle of Holland, but 16 players on the pitch did, and that's the most important thing. So it's really big, really, really good, and also important for handball in the Netherlands because the girls team is world champion in 2019 and made the sport big. But now also Luc Steins and his teammates are doing good things for the sport in the Netherlands.
So do you think it was actually an advantage to go as just this pure underdog story where there's no pressure on the Netherlands going into a full arena, 20,000 Hungarian fans? Did that actually help the Dutch team in the end?
Yeah, it helped, but its most important thing is that they are growing as a team. Their debut was on 2020 in Trondheim, and I think if they played against Norway in Trondheim, they will have lost that match. But they are 2 years older. They know how to play in more big games against big countries, and now they were ready to beat them. I also had pronounced Stijns, but also Kai Smits made a transfer to Magdeburg, and that's so important for the Dutch team. They are believing in themselves and more experience after 2020.
Yeah, and I remember 2 years ago, we were very high on the Dutch team. We were in Trondheim and spoke to Kai and Bobby as well just before the championship, and they played nice handball. It was impressive what they were producing for their first championship, but at the same time, it was clear that they were this level below what was needed. And in the build up to this championship, I saw they played in the Golden League tournament as well, and suffered a couple of heavy defeats before them playing against Sweden a few days ago, where it showed a bit more potential again. But it seemed like, you know, they were lacking something to actually get to that top level. Were they just waiting for the moment to show it, or did they show you something in particular yesterday that you've never seen in this team before?
I think they built up to this match. Stijns and Smits didn't play the whole game against Sweden in Alingsås. They played like the first half, but the second half were other guys that played. So I think that the coach Richardsson is from Iceland. Did build up to this game, and they made a plan. And the friendlies against the big countries in Norway, Denmark, and Sweden were so important. To do the thing they did yesterday in Budapest. So it's really smart. They really had a plan, and it worked. So that's really cool, because it was almost a perfect match, but a perfect match that the guys know they can play, and they did.
It's really an amazing story, and the style of handball that Netherlands showed was really, it was beautiful to watch, because of course, okay, one question I'll ask right now is, how is the country who is the tallest nation in the world the shortest handball nation at this championship? How does that come around? Let's start with that.
I don't know. I think they all are playing soccer, and the guys who are really cool are playing handball.
and they showed how cool they were, definitely, with that quite amazing kind of breakthrough style that we've seen guys like Luc Stijns and Smits particularly show. But there was a lot of other players that really raised the bar for this game. Were you expecting that from kind of the broader team outside Luc Stijns and Smits?
No, like Danny Bayens was really good. He scored 6 out of 7. He was playing at Lemgo in the Bundesliga, but didn't play that much in the highest level of Germany. So he goes to Hamm Westfalen. That's the second Bundesliga. So he really thought about that. Played there really good, a more important role in that team. And now he was delivering in Budapest against Hungary. So it's really thoughtful of the guys, but also the line player. His name is Samir Ben Hanem. He plays in the Benelux. That's the competition of Belgium and the Netherlands. It's not Germany or Denmark. But he really worked to get on the level of the Euros. So that's really good. And I was saying that the friendlies against Norway, Denmark, and Sweden were so important to raise the bar.
Before we go ahead to the game on Sunday against Iceland, I want to take you back to, I think it was just over 3 minutes left to play, and Hungary equalized, and they were on the charge. And I want you to paint a picture for us here. Like, where were you watching the game? Where were your emotions going? And how much did you think when it was 28-28, oh, bollocks, we actually blew this now?
Of course, as a journalist, you don't want to show your emotions, and you're in your head, you're already typing the story. I already was typing the story to go online first, and my girlfriend said, you don't have to do that because you're jinxing it. So I put away my laptop, and this was the first time I was shouting and and standing in front of the TV because it was really cool. And after the 28-28 of Lekaj, of course you were thinking after 55 minutes Hungary is going to catch the Netherlands, and the Netherlands did play a good match, but no points, and it's going to be a difficult story at the Euros. But in the last 5 minutes, they were so playing like adults, and that was something they didn't show in the past. People in the Netherlands say it was the perfect game and the best game of the Netherlands yet, because they now have 2 points, and if they are going to lose against Iceland and Portugal, they don't have anything but a win against Hungary. But Sunday will be really important.
Yeah, so looking forward to, does that change Netherlands' perception of what the expectation from the tournament would have been? So let's take away this Hungary game. So before the tournament, I would have said that Netherlands were probably going to lose that game against Hungary, but they might have a chance against Iceland and Portugal. Does the perception change now where you're kind of thinking, okay, we can really get a result against one of these teams and go through to the main round?
Of course, it will be disappointing if they are going to lose against Iceland and Portugal. And is my perspective. But I was asking Luc Steins and also Tom Jansen, a big right back, before the Euros, and asked what's the goal? And I was thinking they want to do it really well against Hungary, Iceland, and Portugal. But both said, and of course, Stijn was really convincing that they could win 3 matches. So I think it's just all part of the master plan, and I can say it now after winning 1 match and not a loss at all. But I think they really believe that with a good plan, they can win against Iceland and Portugal and then pick up 6 points. But time will tell.
Having seen Iceland and Portugal there tonight, I mean, neither side had an amazing game. Iceland, I think, managed it very well, particularly in defense. But it definitely shows that this group, anything can happen. And, they have a win on their account, a good 3-goal win as well. It could come down to goal difference in the end. You never know. So they've put themselves in a good situation. But I just want to ask you before we let you go, since a couple of years ago, one of the big changes has been Luc Steins going to PSG and Kai Smits going to Magdeburg. They're the 2 superstars in the team. The Dutch team has always had a bunch of players who have played at a decent level, like a lot of them in the Bundesliga or a few in Denmark or France. But do you think that has been the key thing, particularly in their perception, knowing that they can hit this level because 2 guys are playing at the highest level?
Yes, definitely. Stijn is only thinking about how can we win a game. He learned that in Paris. So that's so important that the Dutch players are going to play at a high level and going to think like this. But maybe there is going to be a surprise in the Netherlands. On Twitter, Bette Servaas, he's the chairman of Kielce. He was saying that it would be really cool if a Dutch team is going to play a Champions League, and if there is a businessman who wants to put a lot of money in the Netherlands and club handball, it's possible to play Champions League in the Netherlands. But I think it's important that the guys who are playing now in the second Bundesliga are going to make more steps. And Budapest is a great arena to show what they got, and Iceland and Portugal. I'm looking forward to it. You guys?
Absolutely. After yesterday's result, and I'm just sad I'm in Szeged. I mean, it should be an amazing occasion anyway against Iceland, and potentially that do or die game at the end with Portugal, who were like the fairy tale story of 2 years ago, and the Dutch could steal that from them this time around. But we'll wait and see for that. Until then, Stijn, thanks a lot for joining us here late on a Friday night. Have a nice weekend, and maybe you'll have to get yourself over to Budapest if they make the main round.
It's a really good plan. The country is really proud of the Dutch handball team, so that's a good start. And good luck over there in Hungary and Slovakia, guys. Thanks for inviting me.
No, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Handen in de lucht voor dat vuifje. Jonge dame, zeg waar is het vuifje? Ik ben altijd te poor voor een vuifje. Je kan me vinden.
Thank you to a very excited Stijn. And what's there to not be excited about this Dutch team? They really are building to be a true underdog story in this championship, and it'll be really interesting to see if they get anything out of their games against Portugal and Iceland to progress to the main round for the first time. But moving on to a couple of other potential underdogs and a game between Austria and Poland that Brian was at. They're two teams that are probably expecting big things, but only one could get through. What did you find out about the two teams at that game, Brian?
Yeah, I've been in Bratislava a few days now, but yesterday I worked from my hotel, so I actually wasn't in the arena. So this was the first handball I saw live since I've been here, and I really actually enjoyed it. It was a surprisingly really good atmosphere, and a lot more fans than I expected. There were a lot of Polish and a lot of Germans there for the Germans there for the first game, and a really pretty raucous atmosphere throughout the whole evening. So it really it brought a lot of tension, especially to the second game. I mean, that second game between Austria and Poland, it was tense the whole way through. Even when Poland had their 5-goal gap, the tension never let up, and it was enjoyable from start to finish. But yeah, like you said, Poland and Austria, I think two teams kind of with hopeful futures, I think it would be fair to say. Poland have come out of this kind of the dark ages, as it were. I think their win today was very important for them, because remember the last Euro they didn't win any games. So they kind of ended that spell of that losing Euro streak. And I spoke to Kamil, and he spoke about this group of players being a wild group of boys, I think is what he said. And when I hear anyone saying that about a sports team, I'm like, oh, they're going to be good. You know, when you have that wild aspect to a bunch of lads, it's a recipe for, I'm not sure necessarily success, but definitely entertainment along the way. And I'm quite excited about this Polish side, to be honest, because it's a really nice mix. They've some exciting young lads in there, and then the right amount of experienced heads. And Austria definitely caused them a lot of problems today. Especially the Austrian attack looked very good. But we said it in the preview episodes, Austria's defence was probably their biggest problem, and that's where it really fell apart today. There was certain points in the game where Poland really tore them open, and just it's like all of a sudden they were just stopped defending. So they really lack that kind of heavy rock in the centre of defence, maybe to really bruise and dictate the defence, because it just seems a little bit lost at certain points. But yeah, two very good sides, I'd say, and a lot of potential there. I think, especially for Austria, with Frimmel rising up as this new star and Bilyk coming back, I think, and they do some good young players in there as well. I think it's going to be a fairly bright future for Austria, and definitely exciting times for Poland.
How do you think they compare to Germany and Belarus, who were playing earlier that evening, and Germany winning that one fairly comfortably in the end, but they didn't have it their own way until like basically the start of the second half, huh?
Yeah, it didn't look good at all for the first 15-20 minutes. Till Klimke looked completely out of his depth in goal in the first 20 minutes, and once he got subbed off, Giesesen called a timeout. That's when everything started to change. It was actually Wolf who kind of really seemed to kind of secure everything, or maybe, I don't know, brought an air of security to the defence, and it just seemed like a different side all of a sudden. That's really when it started to turn. So yeah, definitely not like Germany will come away from that thinking, yeah, we definitely had our issues there in the first half. We need to kind of close the gap maybe between some of the newish players in the squad as well. Maybe don't seem to be clicking quite well, but someone like Kai Hafner as well. That's the most goals he's ever scored in a Euro game. You could probably tell I was sitting beside Bjorn Patson for that game. Those kind of facts. So definitely a lot of positives there, but it's a tough group, isn't it? Really, when you look at it, because me talking about the bright future for Austria, but it's going to be a tough game against Belarus as well. It's going to be a, I won't say bloodbath, but it's going to be a scrap the whole way.
And he did say bloodbath, so that's staying in. And tonight has been a vindication for you, Alex Kulesh, and some of your not tepid takes, not hot takes, but your opinions pre-tournament.
Yeah, I had high hopes for this Polish team, and I think wild is a fantastic way to describe them. And I think, Chris, you mentioned as you were watching the game that sometimes they're a bit too fast for their own good, and it becomes a downfall. But I think they play this fantastic style. They have a lot of exciting players, and I'm happy they've been able to get that win. And on the other side, I also really believed in this Iceland team that's coming through. So they got a really comfortable victory over Portugal in the end, which is a big win for them. And I think they'll be a team to be reckoned with in this championship. So pretty exciting on that side. But on the flip side of that, I said that Germany were not looking good coming into the tournament, and that they might have some trouble, especially against that Belarusian team. They proved me wrong, I think. They did have a lot of trouble with that Belarus team, but in the end, it was a comfortable victory despite not having any goalkeepers present for them, which didn't help, but they still got through it. And I see the path opening up for Germany. I see a path to the semi-final opening up for this German team. And, they're in this half of the draw with Sweden, Norway, and Spain. And we saw that Spain may not be the team that they have been in the past. At this tournament, Norway seemed to not be clicking as they have in the past. Germany have a group where they can get maximum points into the main round and squeak out some victories and secure that place in the semi-finals. So I am doing a full 180 on my German vision of this team, and predicting that they might have a good chance to progress.
Wait, now, was Wolf not that good in the end? For some reason, I mean, I am working at the game as well. I'm making videos and sending links to all different places. But my impression was that he did kind of seem to, maybe I don't know, maybe it was the wrong impression completely. Was he not that good overall?
I mean, he made 6 saves for 23%. So, I mean, it was all right. Like, he didn't win the game. He's no Vincent Girard, but
he made one save in the first half and then made 5 more saves in the second half. So I suppose that's a respectable performance.
Yeah, I suppose it was maybe just the time when he came on and then they started to play better, and I was like, oh, it must be because of Wolf, But
yeah. Sometimes it's not the number of saves you make, it's the kind of saves and the time you make the saves that make the difference. But I have to throw some warnings out here. Big claims being made having seen one match played, which is always the big danger we have. And any sports journalist has, they see one match in an event or a league or a competition and they're like, yep, that's what's going to happen. We'll check back in on Germany's path to the semi-final in a couple of days' time. But I think we can go into the other matches after we hear from the players from the Poland versus Austria match. Who did you speak to, Brian?
So first I spoke to Nikola Bilyk. Great to see him back kind of on the regular now. And I think he's going to grow into this tournament. And then I spoke to Sebastian Frimmel, the new star of this team. Although he said himself he doesn't really feel like a star, but you are a star, Sebastian. And then lastly, I spoke to Kamil Syprzak from Poland. He had some very interesting thoughts on this group of players and this Polish team and what they are. So let's have a listen.
So it looked like a very physical game out there. Can you talk us through it a little bit?
Yeah, it was a tough game for us. We played good in offense. We scored 31 goals, but we got 36. That's just too much. We have to do a better job there and help our goalkeepers much more. We didn't do that today, and I think that's the key why we lost today.
I think when you're playing early in the tournament like this, I think you're probably going to be looking for positives out of this game because you have 2 more games coming up. What do you think are going to be the positives tomorrow morning when you wake up?
Yeah, that we still have an opportunity to go forward. Of course, we have 2 very difficult opponents, but still there is a chance, and we have to try to do everything to take this chance, and that's what's positive tomorrow.
Could you talk us through that red card situation? It looked quite dangerous at one point. What was your what happened exactly?
I didn't even saw him coming. I was running and I thought, okay, now I'm through. Just try to make my shot, and in the movement I just felt that somebody is jumping behind me, and it's luckily nothing happened. That's the most important. But that's how I saw it from my point of view. I just didn't understand why he came and where he was coming from. So that's all I can say about it.
How are you personally feeling out there? Of course, you're back quite a while now, but coming back playing really regularly now, how's your body feeling?
It's okay. Everything is good. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I need these games again after a long time after my injury. So I'm happy that I can be here in such a big tournament and enjoy every moment with the team.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
It was not an easy night at all, was it?
No, very very hard game for us. We couldn't keep our defense together. We were very open. We couldn't close the space. The fast back players from them were too strong for us today, I think. And in attack, I think it was okay. We scored a lot of goals, but like I said, the defense was not enough today to play against Poland and want to win. You need a very hard and very close, good defense to win.
And from me, it looked like even though the attack was working well, it was still a very physical defence that Poland were giving you. Huh?
Yes, the defence from Poland was really physical, very very hard. But like you said, we could find our space to score. We scored a lot of goals, so I think in the attack there was not so big problem. Also, they surprised us a little bit with this 5+1 defense against Nikola Bilyk in the beginning. But we could score. It was not so bad in attack. So I think it was our huge problem today was the defense.
Of course, you've been on quite a journey now the last year or so, going from obviously always a very important player, but now you kind of become one of the star players in the team. How is it for you to carry this title, if it were?
I don't see myself like a star player or something. I do everything for the team. We are here 16 players. We are very good friends, and most of us are together since we are young, and we just love to play together, and that's why I do here, and that's why I love to be with the national team.
So when you wake up tomorrow morning now and you're going to try and think of some of the positives to pick you up for the next few games, what will the positives be from this game that you look back and say, okay, we did that right?
I think, we managed some situations. We were surprised, but we could manage to score also, and that's for sure positive. I think also that we have a good team, and we still can reach the main round. But of course, it's very very hard now. But we have to believe in ourselves and keep going. What else can we do?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So I think a very physical game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a physical game, but finally we managed to win. It was quite important victory for us. From the beginning, we didn't play really well and in our style, but after first half, after first part of the game, we could change. We could take some goals of advantage, and I think it gives us a little bit of fresh air to the team, and we could handle this advantage until the end of the match.
So you said that you didn't get into your style. What is your style exactly?
Nobody knows. Even us, I think. No, I think we are quite young national team with the new coach, and we are still looking for our style. But I think in the field we are a really crazy team, and we have some mix of experience and really young players. And I hope in this tournament we will explode like a team, and finally we can find our style of the game.
You've been playing for the national team for quite a while now as well, so does this feel like a kind of a new start? Because there was a few years there where it felt like the Polish national team weren't doing a whole lot, and now all of a sudden it really feels like there's a bit of something behind it.
Yeah, it is. It is like a new era, let's say, for me, and for some my friends that they were with me like 10 years ago in the national team of Poland. I still remember when I was starting like the same young guys in the team when I was playing my first game, my first championship in Serbia. It wasn't the same. Of course, atmosphere in the hall was hot like here, but the situation outside with the contact and with the virus was not the same. Of course, the people couldn't live so good with the teams. But now I think we feel much more support of our fans. That every time I have to say that they are really important for us, and they give us the power to play better and better, and we are doing this for them also.
So you wake up tomorrow morning. Now, what are your lessons from this game? I think the Austrian attack performed pretty well at some points. Is that something you're going to look at?
Yeah, we had the plan, and I think we realized our plan in 50%. The first point was to stop this guy who is staying just on my left, and I think from the beginning we did quite good, because we were playing with the 5 guys behind and 1 in front of Nikola Bilyk. We knew that he's really important guy for the Austrian team. Yeah, for tomorrow morning I would like to wake up and see that the whole of my team we are negative, let's say, from the test of the COVID, and we can continue our work together.
2 battles on the court sometimes.
Yeah, that's the second one against COVID. That's not fair battle, but it is how it is, and we have to handle it, and we have to continue.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Best of luck.
So, Kamil Syprzak fighting the battle on the court against the teams and fighting the battle off the court against COVID. That's the kind of spirit we want to hear from the players in what is naturally still a very difficult situation for them, and is certain to be a topic as this tournament goes on. There were the games that we saw tonight being Friday night, but the vast majority of the matches happened on Thursday. We spoke a little bit about Hungary and the Netherlands, or a lot about the Netherlands with Stijn. What are the games that you guys watched that stood out for you?
I think a big one was the one you were in the commentary box for. It was Croatia-France. I think that was a really, really enjoyable game. It did have that kind of classic shine to it. It seemed like that to me anyway, when I wasn't in the arena like you were. But it just had that feeling to it, even though I think the Croatian side, they seemed to shoot themselves in the foot a few times during the whole game. I don't know if you thought the same, Chris, but there were certain moments when I think their game management went a little bit out the window. And that crazy situation where they had 3 players on the court, and it looked like it was going to go down to 2 players. It was like, oh God. I mean, that was, as you said, I think that was a good referee in hindsight, because that would have looked, optically would have looked, a screenshot of that would just not have looked good.
That was like, for those of you who didn't see the game, like, the crazy thing about it was Croatia did so well to come back within 2 goals. So it was 21-19. And then 2 2-minute suspensions, one of them for the bench. And then 12 seconds later, a direct red card for David Mandic. And then right after that, they give away a penalty for, yes, what in its own would probably have been a 2-minute suspension as well. But yeah, I think the referees looked at each other. They're like, no, let's just give the penalty here, or we might get hit by some beer. So I think they saved themselves. Didn't save themselves from abuse online, but in that situation, they managed it very well. And yeah, I mean, despite everything coming from the Croatian media and fans, that, you know, I don't think there's anything really to complain about. They were the masters of their own downfall in that scenario. And it really did start at the start of the game where, yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about Ivan Martinovic and Halil Jaganjac, and Alex, you mention that Jaganiac is like a bull in a china shop, and he was exactly that at the start of the game. He just tried to bully his way through that French defense over and over again, and it just wasn't happening. I mean, Vincent Girard was brilliant in goal. He made some amazing saves. Both keepers did. Ivan Pesic as well. That's definitely what got me most pumped in that game. But one player who I wasn't expecting a lot of beforehand was Karl Conan, the 26-year-old who plays for Aix-en-Provence in France. He was playing in the centre of defence. Just his fourth game for France, I think it was, and he slotted in there brilliantly. He was everywhere. He had a kind of a clean sheet, as Kevin Domas said to me afterwards, because he rarely made a bad foul, but he was everywhere, getting stuck in all the time. And Kevin spoke to him after the game, and he said he was almost getting sick before the match because there was all these defensive systems that were crammed into his brain for the last 3 weeks, having just joined the national team, and he couldn't remember any of them. And Valentin Port just said to him, "Don't think about anything, just play handball." And he had a fantastic game. Really interesting guy and a story. So I think that's somebody we might have to get on the podcast soon. We can talk more about that when we talk to Carl at some point. But nice to see him and this French team with a few younger players making the breakthrough, and looks like they're going to top this group.
When you were talking there about a player who you didn't expect to perform so well, you really led me down the garden path. I thought you were going to be talking about Tin Lucin from Croatia, who I think, for me, I didn't expect to see. He came on and I think he really kind of transformed the Croatian attack. And there was one goal, I don't know if you remember it, he was kind of, it was like he was going, I can't even explain this on a podcast. Jesus. It was this exquisite pass to the line where he was going the complete almost opposite direction, reached right around the defender and laid into the line. And you see that pass a lot though, but the way it was just such an extreme version of that. And I really enjoyed when he came on, and he was kind of an unexpected surprise.
Just one more fact on Karl Conan. He had 11 legal fouls in that game, which is an incredible performance. He kept a clean sheet in terms of discipline and really stepped up in that centre of defence. A centre of defence that is missing, key players like Luka Karabatic. So very needed for France. But I don't think France were too impressive, to be honest.
No, not in attack anyway.
Not impressive in attack. I think they were lucky because they faced a Croatian team without Sindric and Duvnjak, who will more than likely appear in the rest of the tournament for Croatia. So hopefully turn around Croatia's performance as the tournament goes on. So I'm not too impressed by France, but of course they've had their slightly laboured build up, so there's more to come from them. Yeah. And I think they've been written off by a lot of people, probably including us. I think none of us have them in a medal position, but this is still the Olympic champions. This is still a team that can turn it on at any time. So a lot more to come from France.
We were too busy getting hyped on Hungary, but
sipping that Hungary Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's it. And you say Croatia developing as the tournament goes on, but now already on Saturday night they have to beat Serbia in what is going to be an incredible atmosphere. I can guarantee that. I'm just going to say I'm glad I'm on the opposite side to the majority of the fans for this particular game, and that'll be amazing. But if Serbia win it, then Croatia are going home early, which would be a remarkable thing. The Serbian team doing very well, dominating their match. Lazar Kukic, who had a brilliant match, as we tweeted about, 6 goals and 4 assists in the first half alone, and Milan Bomashtar in goal as well, who I thought would be the third choice. Yeah, had a fantastic game, and well done to him and our pal Tony Girona coaching them. Big game for them on Saturday night. We've been recording a long time already. We're just about to pass, or we have passed midnight on now Saturday morning, so we can wrap it up maybe looking ahead to another big game or two from Saturday. I think Spain-Sweden is going to be a big one as well. anyone else that you're looking out for on Saturday or Sunday?
I think there's Norway, Russia. Russia had a pretty great performance for one half and a terrible performance for the second against Lithuania, but I think that will be a good test for this Norwegian team to see if they are legit in this tournament. But I think we're all looking forward to Croatia, Serbia.
Yeah, there's one game I'm really looking forward to, and that's Slovenia, Denmark, because I made a very, very bold prediction in our prediction game back on the live we did. I predicted that Slovenia would pull off a draw against Denmark, so much so that I sillily enough, put my bonus ball onto the draw. And then in hindsight, I was like, never, first of all, pick draws, because statistically, they're probably not going to happen as much often as picking a win or a loss. And then definitely don't put your bonus ball on a draw. So I have my fingers crossed. I think I moved up. We've this league on the Home of Handball app, and I made amazing progress today. I moved up from 31st. The only people below me were 3 people on 0 points, but I moved up to 29th. So now I have 2 people below me, and Chris, you went way down the list. May I say
know.
So? You went down from you 4th to 14th or something like that. You dropped right down.
Yeah, I was looking good, and then I didn't notice it until Merle Schach wrote to me on Instagram saying, "It's a pleasure to share 14th place with you." And I was like, "What?" And that's what it's like. You said, Brian, don't predict draws. I predicted a draw between Austria and Poland. I also believed in Portugal. So yeah, that's me in trouble there. And Alex, you've moved up to 9th place.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my positioning so far. We still haven't figured out our forfeit for who finishes last out of the 3 of us in this championship.
I don't know. Do we need one?
The big difference is, and people who don't follow us on Twitter, we saw that a few years ago, was it 2016, the Women's Euro, Brian jumped into the cold Swedish Lake Delhön on a December morning. But the thing is now, in the intervening years, all 3 of us really like jumping into cold water as like an activity. So I'm not sure that's much of a forfeit.
No.
Maybe we have to go into a Budapest steam bath or something. In COVID times, that's asking for danger.
That sounds like a reward, Chris.
How about
the winner would get
pool in the Budapest baths? They do have a, I think, 6-degree plunge pool. Let's say a minute in the plunge pool for the loser.
What I love about all this, Chris, is that you always bring up me jumping into a lake, but you don't forget that a Euro later I shaved one of my legs. I waxed one of my legs a Euro later, and everyone seems to forget about that. Thank God.
Yeah, that's because we don't. We're gonna have to find the video for that now. On that note, we'll leave it there. We'll be back on Monday morning with another podcast. Thank you for listening.